Stocks push up with Nifty at all-time highs. IT as well as telecom and healthcare notch gains while FMCG, metals and financials drag.
L&T Technology Services says conversion and pipelines have vastly improved even as it sets a $2 billion medium-term revenue goal. A recovery in BFSI tech spending in the US also prompts a bullish view on LTI-Mindtree.
National Stock Exchange is set to seek SEBI's no objection certificate for its proposed IPO after its board cleared the move. The country's largest exchange has an over 90% share in equity and derivative segments.
Bitcoin plunges below $60,000 on likely leverage-driven liquidation. Ethereum too takes a beating. Meanwhile, Nasdaq has sought approval from the SEC to launch Bitcoin index options.
Christopher Waller, member of the U.S. Federal Reserve Board of Governors, bats for same regulations for all players operating in a segment, including the fintechs. On integration with UPI, he says a universal payment system in U.S. is still a while away. Hello and welcome. You've tuned into Business Lunch. I'm Nisha and with me as always is Hormaz. So Hormaz, it's a record smashing day for our markets and Nifty 50 still holding at record levels at this particular moment. In fact, let's take a look at that. Except for Bank Nifty, which is now refusing to participate, it's showing minor losses at this particular point. The rest of the indices are in the green. But for the mid-cap universe also, it's just a consolation, which is pretty much flat with a green bias. An advance decline ratio also marginally in favor of the advances. But what we are celebrating, Hormaz, clearly is the Nifty 50's rise, and it's comfortably above the 5,100 level now.
Yeah, it didn't look so at the start of the trading session, at least for the first couple of hours, but then there has been a very swift recovery, as you can see from the lows of the day. Now comfortably above that mark of 25,100, breaking past the previous record highs of 25,78 is what the Nifty had to cross. And this is despite the Nifty Bank's underperformance, and after a lot of expectation that the Nifty Bank would be the one that would lead the Nifty towards its highs. It has not been the case. The Nifty Bank continues to remain in the red. It's the monthly expiry for the index today, continues to hover around those 51,200, 51,300 levels. It's been extremely range bound in today's session, not very significant movements, but what has led the index higher today is IT, and it's been an extremely stellar move from the Nifty IT index and a lot of these IT stocks that have contributed to the gains today. At the highest point of the day is the Nifty IT index, and there you can see the contributions as well. Infosys, LTI-Mindtree, Wipro and Tech Mahindra also among the gains. Wipro though is the top gainer on the Nifty in today's trading session, almost 4% higher on Wipro. Infosys also trading with healthy gains of 2.5%, as is Tech Mahindra and LTI-Mindtree also contributing to the gains. It is the large cap IT and the mid cap IT has fared even better. Persistent Systems, Coforge, all of these names have seen very, very significant gains in today's trading session. So it is an IT-led rally in today's session for the Nifty to head towards a new record high now, comfortably above the mark of 25,100 as we speak. But let us also listen in to some important market voices now as to what they make of the rally that we have seen so far.
So there will be enough reasons available for correction, but we believe based on our fundamentals, liquidity and sentiment, corrections are unlikely to be deeper like we saw during COVID time. They are more likely to be what we saw during October 21 to June 22 period, a minor correction, combination of time and price correction. Consumer stock valuations are high, undoubtedly, but they are relatively lower compared to their historical average, and their ROEs are likely to be better. So we are exactly doing what I've said, moving from momentum to quality, moving from low floating stock counters to high floating stock counters, and moving from expensive valuation to reasonable valuation.
Bull market peaks are made of excesses. You need excesses in credit, you need excesses in corporate activity, you need an excess in earnings, valuations, and sentiment. So there are parts of the markets that look a little frothy, no doubt about it. There are some SMIDs that look, small cap, mid cap stocks that look a little extended. But we are nowhere close to the peak on issuances. We have not seen any credit recovery of note. We're yet to see a major peak in earnings. So there are many parts of the market that are not there as yet. I suspect they will all get there in time, and we will, of course, hit a peak. But my best guess is we are not there as yet. But the things to note are, I think, with respect to the credit cycle. It's a very benign and modest credit cycle. And credit to GDP in the private sector is still below previous peaks. And it's hard to fathom that we get into a bull market peak without actually getting a major credit cycle. So the thing to watch out is to see how credit pans out. I think we're still far away from a new peak. We will get to a new peak, especially on corporate balance sheets, which remain quite light. So with light balance sheets, with earnings mid-cycle, it doesn't feel like a bull market peak, even though valuations may be a little rich compared to where investors want them to be.
Some important market voices there, and since we were on the subject of the markets, the very important level to now on the upside for the Nifty is now going to be 25,281, and that is because if that happens, it will be 4,000 points from the budget day low that we had made on the 23rd of July. So 4,000 points in just a month for the Nifty, and it's been that kind of a move in the index, the recovery that we have seen post the budget, and there have been significant contributions that have come in from the not so usual suspect names. If you can see the list there, Shriram Finance is the top gainer on the Nifty since the budget day, and SBI Life, BPCL, HDFC Life, and even Bajaj Auto finds a mention in this list. Double-digit gains seen in almost all of these names. Shriram Finance is up almost 20% since the lows of the budget. SBI Life also makes a mention here, as is Bajaj Auto, 13.5% since then. But there have been some underperformers as well, but no prizes for guessing here. The underperformance is led by banks, and Axis Bank is one of the leading underperformers on the Nifty since the budget, almost 8% lower since those levels there. SBI is the other one, almost 5.5% lower over the last 1 month. But Hero MotoCorp finds a mention here, 4% lower during this period, as is Grasim, and Britannia also ranks among the underperformers. But the list of outperformers, of course, is more compared to the list of the underperformers on the Nifty since the lows of the budget.
All right. So that's an important point to note here. Nifty revving up since the budget day and right now unstoppable at record levels. But IT has a big role to play, but there's more news on the IT sector. Mid-cap IT companies like LTI Mindtree as well as Tata Elxsi are in focus on the back of reports coming in from the brokerage house Kotak. In fact, LTI Mindtree upgraded by this brokerage firm, and Tata Elxsi is under pressure following Kotak's sell rating on this particular counter. Let's find out from Reema Tendulkar on what the brokerage report had to say, and clearly the market is impacted by their views.
Indeed, let me start with LTI Mindtree because there is a big up move on the stock. This is after Kotak upgrades LTI Mindtree to an ad and they raise the target price to 6,200. They believe that there is going to be growth acceleration. So FY24 growth rate at 4.4% was a trough. It picks up to 6.5% in the current year and accelerates to 11% in FY26. And this will be driven by the recovery in the two challenged verticals, BFSI and healthcare. BFSI is already showing signs of a pickup in spending, particularly amongst the US banks. The second overhang on LTI Mindtree was the leadership exits. After LTI and Mindtree merged, there were a spate of senior level exits. But now Kotak points out that at least some of the leadership departures have cooled off in the last 3 to 4 months. That said, don't expect too much by way of margin expansion, but this is going to be one consistent compounder. So they're expecting a strong EPS growth. They raised the target multiple to 28 times. On Tata Elxsi, now Kotak Institutional Equities has been bearish, and now the stock went up 26% in the span of 2 days, yesterday and the prior day. So Kotak says that, well, Tata Elxsi was expensive to begin with, and now even more so. They've got a sell call. Target price is 5,500. Valuations are at 61 times forward multiple. Valuations bake in a 20% revenue growth for the next 10 years. And that, it just seems to be too rich, according to Kotak Institutional Equities. The auto side of the business is growing well, but the rest of the business, which is 50%, which includes healthcare, media, communication, is facing some challenges. So therefore, Kotak believes, valuations are too rich. It's an excellent story, great growth story, but valuations are far too expensive, which is why they've got a sell call with a target price of 5,500. Back to you.
Indeed, Reema, thanks a lot for that. Not having a very good day at the office is Tata Elxsi, is the only one among those Tata Group high-flying names that is trading with some losses in today's session. Moving on then, focusing on some buzzing stocks, GMM Pfaudler has fired up in today's session as almost 9% equity worth 550 crores changed hands in a block deal today, while MCX is gaining on the back of a positive brokerage report. Vamakshi is here to tell us more on both of these names. Vamakshi, over to you.
Well, absolutely. MCX is surging on the back of positive commentary that came through from the management. They met up with HDFC Institutional when they said that there has been some strategic direction that has been provided. They have a very exciting product pipeline lined ahead. They're launching new products such as monthly series as well as index option. The technical testing for the weekly option product is also currently in progress. They're continuously enhancing the technology stack. They're also focusing on increasing institutional participation and hedging activity on the platform. Additionally, the appointment of the new MD and CEO, who is Mrs. Praveena Rai, will significantly boost these strategic initiatives. Moreover, MCX is well positioned to withstand ongoing regulatory challenges. The first one being the carbon index option volumes. The second one being the reversal of interest earned on clearing funds to clearing members. Now, the company said that they have not quantified the impact from this regulation, but they're expecting the impact to be very minimal. The third one being true to label charges, which will discontinue the practice of levying slab-wise fee structure. Over here, they believe that this will be neutral for exchanges as they will switch to blended fees. HDFC Institutional believes that MCX will witness sustained growth in options volume. They're expecting notional as well as premium volume to register 61% and 43% CAGR from FY24 to 27 respectively. They're maintaining their revenue and EPS estimates, but they're increasing their multiple to 40 times as compared to 35 times earlier because of better visibility. So given those factors, we have HDFC Institutional maintaining a buy rating on this counter but raising its target price to 6,000 per share. GMM Pfaudler is the next one I'm focusing on. There was a huge block deal in the pre-market block deal window. 9.2% equity worth 557 crores change hands. 41.2 lakh shares change hands at 1,352 per share. Now keep in mind that the stock has not done much in the past 1 year or even on a year-to-date basis. In fact, it is trading at a similar level as was seen in the past year. GMM Pfaudler on a year-to-date basis has declined by almost 6.73%, while NSE has risen by 15%. Let's also look at the shareholding structure. We have the promoter holding 25%. There is also Geranium Investment Limited, which holds 8.25%. HDFC Mutual Fund and First Sentier Investments also hold a notable portion in the company. But the buyers and sellers of this deal are not immediately known, so we will have to wait for post-market disclosures. But that said, despite this huge block deal, the stock is up in trade, and that is a potential reason could be that this is a huge, if indeed it is the PE investors that have sold this, it's a huge chunk, and if it has gone into a diversified set of institutional investors, it means that such a huge block may not come up in the future, and resultantly the stock is up in trade today.
All right. Thanks, Vamakshi, for taking us through all the stocks that have been buzzing in trade today. Let's also focus on the primary market action. And as we get developments in the much-awaited IPO of the National Stock Exchange, or NSE, sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the exchange has sought a no-objection certificate from SEBI. Now, the NSE board met yesterday and approved the decision to file for an application seeking a no-objection certificate, or the NOC, is given, remember, to take SEBI's go-ahead from the department that is concerned with Market Infrastructure Institution, or MIIs. Now, it is also needed to get SEBI's clearance for NSE to file an IPO's DRHP. This will be a mother of all IPOs. Of course, the NOC is something that is to be awaited. Now it's time for a short breather on Business Lunch. On the other side, we put the focus on the boardroom battle underway at Godfrey Phillips. Stay tuned for that.
Back with us here on Business Lunch. Now, a boardroom battle is underway at Godfrey Phillips with a dispute between Beena Modi and her son Sameer Modi. Now, the company's Nomination and Remuneration Committee has recommended against Sameer Modi's reappointment to the board. The AGM is set to be held on the 6th of September, where Beena Modi's reappointment to the board is awaiting shareholder approval. Ashmit is here to tell us more. Ashmit.
Well, a multi-layered promoter dispute at the heart of Godfrey Phillips, at the heart of the promoter family, causing disruption, causing embarrassment, and could also lead to governance and financial issues. The issue travels back to 2019. After the death of Mr. KK Modi, the question arose as to who will head the family. And therein, importantly, Beena Modi had been elevated as the managing director of Godfrey Phillips. This, importantly, had been opposed by her son, Lalit Modi, as well as Sameer Modi. Lalit Modi, of course, is the economic fugitive currently believed to be in London. Now, Lalit Modi, importantly, at the time had sought for selling off the entire company and the assets, and for that money to be distributed between the promoter family. This was opposed by Beena Modi and Sameer Modi, first at the arbitration in Singapore, and then subsequently a settlement was sought before the Delhi High Court. In the interim, meanwhile, Lalit Modi's son, Ruchir Modi, had filed a complaint before the SFIO regarding corporate governance issues. Not just that, the most recent figure has been that in the month of June, Sameer Modi made an official complaint with the FIR, with the police, that he was physically assaulted by the security officer of Beena Modi. Beena Modi, in turn, has filed defamation proceedings against Sameer Modi. The latest, of course, trigger, however, will be the upcoming AGM. Now, this, importantly, is the AGM that will decide on, number one, the reappointment of Beena Modi, and number two, the exclusion of Sameer Modi from the board of directors. Importantly, advisory firms based out of US are already issuing recommendations to shareholders to vote against Beena Modi's reappointment and against Sameer Modi's exclusion from the board as well. So clearly, the dust is far from settled as far as this promoter dispute is concerned at Godfrey Phillips.
Thanks so much, Ashmit, for getting us all those latest details on the family dispute at Godfrey Phillips. And of course, the votes of the shareholders in the upcoming AGM will be critical. Now, earlier today, we spoke to J.N. Gupta of Stakeholders Empowerment Services and also Hetal Dalal of Institutional Advisory Services to better understand the view on the family dispute. Listen in.
We have opposed all three resolution orders. We have said all three family members should be ousted from the board for the simple reason that in boardroom, if you have a divided house, the company will suffer and shareholders will suffer. So I am asking basic question to them, or rather to independent directors, that what for shareholders have put them on the board? Obviously, to ensure that the company is run in fair manner.
Compensation levels are significantly high. They're just open-ended. It's basically up to 5% of profits. For Beena Modi, also compensation is up to 5% of profits. And aggregate executive compensation can go all the way up to 14% of profits. So essentially, for Charu Modi, we estimate a compensation to be anywhere between 50 to 60 crores, which is not only high for the size of business, it compares to some of the Sensex company CEOs.
Boardroom battle brewing there at Godfrey Phillips. Now, sources are telling CNBC-TV18 that the Bangladesh government owes over $1 billion in payments to Indian power producers, with $800 million due to the Adani group itself. Abhimanyu is here to tell us more. Abhimanyu, what are you picking up?
Well, the dues are mounting for several power producers and notably for Adani Power, as it supplies power to Bangladesh through its Goda plant located in Jharkhand in India, which supplies up to 7 to 10% of Bangladesh's power demand. And the average monthly billing of the plant is around 90 to 100 million US dollars. Now, the dues are mounting even as the supply of power is continuing to Bangladesh. Adani Power, sources in Adani Power have indicated that they have been supplying electricity continuously to Bangladesh as per the requirements and the schedule laid down by the Bangladesh Power Development Boards. However, they have indicated that they will find it difficult to continue supplying power in absence of any payments which would be made, since they have to make upfront payments not just to coal suppliers but also to other stakeholders in the value chain, namely the lenders and people and companies supplying other commodities. Now, currently, Bangladesh has long-term PPA ties with 4 other imported coal-based power generators apart from Adani Power, namely Paira, Rampal, Matarbari and Barisal Electric Power. Now, these plants, however, do not operate. If at all, they are not paid for as far as the electricity which is to be generated is concerned, because payments are made as per the coal supplied by the Bangladesh government by way of the US dollar letter of credit or the US dollar upfront payment. So it remains to be seen till what extent Adani Power is going to continue supplying power, and whether the Bangladesh government has already devised a strategy to ensure that the pending payments are cleared at the earliest, to ensure that power continues to remain supplied from the Adani Power plant in India.
All right, Abhimanyu, an important piece of story there. Thanks so much for getting us all those details. With that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. But up next, we'll get you all the market action. Stay tuned for that. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch, and markets holding on to the gains at 25,100 level, comfortable with Nifty 50. But what's actually losing some ground is Bank Nifty, also because of the heavyweights like State Bank of India as well as Kotak and Axis losing some ground in last few minutes of trade. Now, in important national development for the day, heavy showers have led to massive flooding in several parts of the state of Gujarat. At least 16 people have died in rain-related incidents, while over 15,000 have been evacuated so far. Now, the relief and rescue operations involving the NDRF, SDRF, Army and Air Force are underway in Vadodara and in Saurashtra region has been worst amongst all the districts, and the local administration has also shut the Ajwa as well as the Pratappura reservoir gates to mitigate waterlogging in Vadodara. Meanwhile, the Met Department has issued red alert for some of these districts. All right, so that's the state of affairs in Gujarat. With that, it's time to wrap on this edition of Business Lunch. From Hormaz, myself and the entire team, thanks so much for tuning in.